to the actor's take. I am here trying to herd 4 cats who want to shoot in different directions all of the time. Thank you. We are going to have a fun show today. I have got the best group of guests anyone could ever wish for. I did wish for better guests, but this is what I got lumbered with. We have many subjects that we want to cover today, but we have a couple of new faces with us. So what I'd like to do first of all is introduce Bunk.
Hi, my name is Bunk Hess. I've been in theater since I was about 8 years old. I think I did my first role in summer camp when I was 8. And then I took many years off as I discovered beer and sports and girls and things like that. And I got back into it my final year of college in pursuit of a young lady who was acting in the theater there. And it didn't work, but I did catch the bug again, and I've been doing theater ever since.
It's funny you should say that, because the first actor's take, we also had a fellow guest here who said exactly the same thing.
I think it's a pretty common thing for
yes.
straight men in the theater.
Yes.
Can we tell what his name was?
Do tell.
Do tell? No, I'm going to keep that one a secret. Rick,
Yes.
say something.
Something.
There we go. Bob.
I'm waiting for Rick to say something first before I go.
Something.
Well, once upon a time, many years ago, I was a rock and roll singer. And it became rather overwhelming with the unbridled egos and the wasted time, so I got into the theater.
And you found more of the same?
No, the egos were more bridled, and there was less wasted time, and I got to be on the stage. So
Excellent.
That's
And of course we've acted together, and well,
Yes.
Bunk and myself have acted together. Jade, welcome back.
Hello,
Who are you?
I'm Jade.
I should have done Bob first, but I got it wrong. But that doesn't matter.
Oh, you threw me off. You told
We've
me
got a
to go
great
to Bob
crew
first.
here. They'll sort this one out.
Okay, so I'm Jade Tiller. I did this last time, so we kind of know my backstory as to why I got into theater, into acting. But I'm really excited to be back with you guys and the 2 new guys. Very excited, and I can't wait to hear all your stories.
It should be fun.
It should be fun. It's up to you. It
Bob?
better be fun.
Nice one.
What can I say?
I'm not quite sure.
In that case, I won't.
All
I'll
right.
let you say something.
That's, no, I just want to get right to it. Let's just get right to the meat of the
Right to
matter.
it?
Absolutely. Let's dive right in.
Dive right in. So at the end of the first actor's take, we actually got into the question of how far can community theatre push the standards of the type of shows they wish to do. Could a community theatre like the Longmont Theatre Company do a show like Hair? Could it do O Calcutta? Could it do The Blue Room? Could it even do Mrs. Henderson Presents, which is an absolutely fascinating show, and I'll give just a little bit of history here. Mrs. Henderson owned the Windmill Theatre in London back in the 30s. And audience levels were dwindling. And so what she decided to do was she decided that she would start to do nude reviews. After about a week, 2 weeks, of course, everyone wanted to fine her, sue her, lock her up, put her in the Tower of London for showing obscenity on the stage. She negotiated and negotiated with all of these people, the law and lawyers and whomever, and came up with the concept that if she did everything as a still photograph, then the nudity would be okay. So she came up with the concept of closing the theatres. All of her actors would move around into different poses and produce a different picture. Curtains would open for a couple of minutes, curtains would close, and then they'd move on and do the next picture that they wanted to show. So my question here is, do you think community theatre should actually be attempting to do shows like this with nudity? Who'd like to grab that one first? Bob.
Not me. I'm not going to grab anything
What are you gonna
first,
grab,
that's
Bob?
for sure. You may grab first. Go ahead.
I'd say it probably depends on the community where the theater is located. A place like Boulder probably has more room to do things like that, as opposed to Longmont, which generally has an older clientele in our audience. It's a little more risky.
But do you think that should hold a theatre back from actually attempting to do a show like this?
I am all for theaters pushing forward with whatever they can get away with.
But who actually says what they can get away with?
I suppose that has to be a group decision.
That has to, yes, and I suppose audience levels will take. I get the feeling that if LTC did a show like Oh Calcutta, we may not have a large audience from Longmont, but I bet they'd come out from Denver, and I bet they'd come out from Boulder, and I bet they'd come out from Fort Collins.
That might be true.
And we have seen this in other shows that we've done, though not shows like that.
We've done a little more risque shows in recent years, like the Rocky Horror Show and Urinetown and things like that. Shows with lots of F-bombs in them.
Yeah.
And the audience was full.
Can you remember which was the first show that they did nudity at LTC?
At LTC? I didn't know there was ever nudity at LTC.
Yes, there was. It was called Veronica's Room.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And that was the first time they actually did nudity, and as far as I'm aware, the only time that they've ever actually done nudity on stage.
Damn it, I must have fallen asleep.
Well, actually, it wouldn't have helped, because there were only 5 seats that you could actually tell that she was nude.
And you didn't tell me, but then?
Well,
You're telling me now?
What I wanted
What good
to do...
does it do me?
What did
I
they
said
charge for
these
those
5
seats?
seats?
I don't know.
These 5 seats, what we should
It
do
was
is
double.
just double the price.
Yes.
Anyone else like to interject here?
Well, I think, especially for Longmont, and that's not disparaging Longmont at all, but I think hair would probably be a little more successful than Oh Calcutta just because of the subject matter, not just the nudity. There's more of a joyous celebration of
Yes.
life in hair. So I think, especially with the way Longmont is growing in population and more people are coming from outside of Longmont to live here so that they can work in Denver and Boulder and up in Greeley, I think we'd have a lot more diverse audience who would be perfectly accepting of a show like Hair.
Yes.
Because it's just one scene. It's at the end of the first act, and it's very brief. You know, it's not like a whole thing. It's not even debauched.
Right.
Which Oh Calcutta, where depending on how you look at it, could be considered.
Well, I mean, Oh Calcutta starts off with a very erotic dance sequence.
Get out.
Yes.
Do you know any of the steps?
I'll show you later.
Please don't.
You know,
Well, I mean, why does it have to be Hair or Oh Calcutta or something which has already happened before? Because when you do something that's already happened before, it all comes about, oh, I'm doing a nude play. There's nudity in my play. But, you know, that's all it comes about. It has to be something new. It has to be about something. It has to say something. At the time, Hair said something, right? At the time, the other play said something. I mean, if you're actually saying something, then why can't you? I mean, you can't have it be nude just because it's nude. I mean, then just do nude. Just have a show called Nude.
that's true. However, all community theatres do shows that have been done many, 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 many times in the past. Okay? It just happens that Hair has nudity in it.
Right.
What Hair also has
What
is
would be the-
fantastic music. It has really got some good music in it. Just wonderful music.
But is that enough? I mean, is that enough? Is that enough to make people sit through it again? I mean, I don't know. Are you saying something new with what's happening?
How
Are
many-
you saying people, you know, love one another?
How many people
Do
do
we
you
need to hear that again? I mean, have we not
US out
heard
of
of it?
How many people in this area do you believe actually saw the original Hair,
Not many.
if any? I know I did. I saw it in London. But
I saw it when it toured
Yeah.
through Denver.
Okay.
And, you know, and it was wonderful. But like
Yes.
it was sold out too. I just managed to have a friend who had an extra ticket, so it does sell, and it is a good message. I mean, especially like right now. I mean, it's a period piece at this point in time, but it still has the same message. And I think with community theaters, like you said, we try to do shows that have been established so that people can say, oh, I didn't get down to the Denver Center to see it, but Longmont Theater Company has a good reputation and they're doing it, so I'd like to see them do it.
Right.
So it's not just about doing something new and avant-garde, because that's something that smaller theaters do or larger theaters do. But it's like if you're talking about community theater, and we like to do what's established so that we can kind of bring people in and then kind of branch out from there. But I think doing something like Hair would actually be a very successful endeavor here in Longmont,
yes.
personally.
Okay. Rick, you have actually been on stage nude. And I know you were using a very small fiddle in a very appropriate location.
I've heard it described as the world's smallest violin.
And so, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
It was actually a 1970 Les Paul custom,
They are tiny.
but
They are.
yes, the rest of
With
the band,
only.
the rest of the band urged me not to do the naked thing. So,
Oh, really?
yes,
You hadn't
yes,
told me that
and
part of
for
the story.
a couple of weeks prior to the gig. Don't do the naked thing. Don't do the naked thing. He said, "Why not? You know, it'll put us on the map."
Yes.
You know, well, what if you get arrested? I said, I hope the sheriffs come drag me off the stage. It'll really put us on the map.
Yes, that would
So-
have made national news.
Yes.
So is that in a play or is that in a performance, like a
This was
musical
in
performance?
a live rock and roll performance.
Okay, so what was your reasoning behind being nude, other than to bring in tickets?
Grab attention.
Okay.
Grab attention for the band. You know,
Well,
so
it's a great publicity stunt.
yes, and I actually wasn't quite nude. I had tennis shoes, a pair of Oakley blade sunglasses, and the guitar on.
Yes.
So,
Well,
Yes.
you know, the drummer said he had the best view of all.
Was he on drugs?
So, you know, I think that a theater like Longmont Theater Company, as Bunk pointed out, you know, perhaps it's audience driven or audience tends to be a little more on the elderly side. But, you know, as Jade said, I think that we would draw a lot of audience from different places, Greeley, Fort
Yes.
Collins, Boulder, Denver, you know, and perhaps, so to speak, put Longmont Theater Company on the map.
Even more than it is.
Yeah.
Yes. I totally agree with that particular summation. The problem I have is that typically with community theatre, we are using community actors. Would the community actors be willing to be nude on stage?
Yeah.
You think they would? If,
well,
for the right reasons,
For the
of
right
course.
reason, of course.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, some of us be naked on stage? I don't know. But the opportunity to do something that pushes the envelope for yourself, even your own comfort zone. I mean, you don't audition for hair and you don't talk to the director and they say, well, we are going to do the nude scene or we're not going to do the nude scene. But you don't audition for it not knowing it's going to happen.
Right.
So it's not like you're forcing anybody outside of their own comfort zone anyway. It's we're not under contract. This isn't, MGM in the 30s where you just do what they tell you to do. You are a free, independent agent. You can go and audition for a show or not audition for a show. I think there's, again, enough college-age students who'd probably be willing to do it, or older people.
Do you have a
think it would
list at all?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
I just thought
But-
maybe I could try to contact them.
But I think, nudity that doesn't just celebrate youth and beauty, but like maturity and experience, I think is a beautiful thing. And I would be more than thrilled to be a part of a project as long as there's a reason for it, not just for gratuity. I mean, no offense, but that's rock and roll. So we have our own reasons for doing things. And, but on stage as an actor, it would have to be a reason.
Right.
But I'd be more than willing to do it, and 20 years ago, I'd have been even more willing to do it.
Right. See, I believe that Little Luke did it for all the right reasons. You remember now, don't you? I remember that Rick did it. What he did as a publicity stunt was for all the right reasons. I think it was brilliant.
Right.
I honestly believed it was brilliant. And when you consider what some of the rock bands get up to, it was actually fairly tame.
Where was it? Was it in Boulder, Denver, or Longmont?
It was in Northwest Ohio.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that area, so.
It was the Fourth of July Portage Quarry blowout, and we were the first of 6 bands, and I really wanted people to remember Ransack. Why not?
Any other thoughts on this particular subject that you'd like to jump in on?
I don't think so. Like Jade said, I'm all for the pushing of the envelope, and yeah, let's do new and risky things on stage.
Right.
I'm always in favor of that.
Yes. Well, we mentioned Rocky Horror, and it's funny. Rick and myself always wanted to do Rocky Horror at LTC, and year after year after year, we put into the production committee to do it, and we got poo-pooed. No, it won't be successful. No, it won't work. No, you can't do it. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Gave us a song and dance, and of course, all of a sudden, a director who they love said, I'd like to do Rocky Horror. Oh, yes. And they did it, and as we predicted, highly successful.
Highly
excellent.
successful.
Highly successful. And with the Rocky Horror, if you put it together correctly, it will always be highly successful.
It helps if you have Bonnie and Taylor Sims. They were just fantastic in those roles.
Yeah, no, it's got to be well cast.
Yes.
It really has to be well cast. But you know, it's just a great show. It's a fun show. You can jump up and down as an audience member. You can join in as an audience member.
You can throw toast.
You can throw. Yeah, where else can you throw toast?
Right.
Okay, let's change tracks just a little bit here. I'd like you to cast your minds back. Hopefully, there's someone watching this. What sort of tricks and tips would you give to someone who's sitting at home right now and going, you know what? I'm going to try out at my local community theatre. What sort of tips and tricks would you give that person for their very first audition?
I would say find the script and read it. That's something I didn't always do when I was young. I just kind of assumed that it would be a good experience, but it helps to know what you're getting into. And as you read it, picture how you would be saying those lines, what you would be feeling like while you were saying those lines, and go in with some idea of what you're trying to achieve.
When you audition, and this is just jumping ahead a little bit, but when you audition, do you audition for a particular role, part in a show? Or do you just do more general audition and say, I can fit in where you need me?
I guess that depends on the show. Some shows there's only one role that I could fit in. Some there are 4. And, you know, if I like the script enough, I might be happy to take any of those 4.
Interesting. Bob? You've forgotten the question, haven't you?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, I knew
Ask
that.
me another. Try me on another. Or
All
let's
right.
back up.
All right.
I wasn't following.
You
Sorry.
weren't, yeah, you just wandered away into
Whoa.
the wilderness, didn't you? Just gone.
Right, cut them off.
Sorry.
and then-
Yeah, thank you. Slide
God.
that forward a little bit. At least if I have to.
We're going to have to put him back on the cocaine, you know.
That's in the other room.
Yeah.
Help yourself.
Get out.
Any audition tips?
Excuse me.
Any audition tips for first time?
Be
actors?
loud.
Be loud?
Yes, because loudness can sometimes be misconstrued for confidence. And that
Ricky
works
has a
for
problem with
people.
that.
Yes.
And I've heard people say, well, at least he's loud, you know. So, yeah. Because then at least you have a chance and people will use you if they know
Right.
you're loud, yeah.
Do you think reading the script beforehand is a good...
Well, yeah, I mean.
Because
yes.
I don't. I never read the script
Really?
beforehand. I like to go in there cold because I give my best auditions when I haven't got a clue what's going to happen. That's,
Whatever works for you, that's great.
But that works for me. It doesn't
Sure.
work for everyone, of course. Rick, what about yourself?
I've actually done it both ways. And I'm kind of with Bunk in that I would rather have my cold reading a little less cold if I've read the script or at least peruse a little bit and get a little, get some subtext of what's going on, where the character's coming from, what has happened to the character prior to the scene I'm reading. Mm-hmm. So I would prefer to know a little bit about it than be ice cold.
What if you make a lot of preconceived choices about what the character's supposed to be and that's not at all what they're looking for? And you strongly go in one direction and they're just like, what? How can you possibly read that way?
Then they kick me to the curb and I
Right.
tuck my
Nothing
tail
you can do
between
about
my
that.
legs and slink out the stage door.
And how does that feel? Is that lasting scars?
Pretty crappy.
Really?
I lay
How long
awake.
does it take you to get over something like that?
Well, a couple months after something like
really?
that.
So you don't audition for things 1, 2, 3. You take them as
Well,
they come?
it's difficult because then I lay awake nights crying.
I know.
You
I've seen the
Your
results.
neighbors have told me
Yeah.
people have moved, as a matter of fact. The
Well,
4 houses around your place are all empty now.
Right, they're abandoned, derelict homes.
Well, there's comfort in Netflix,
Yes.
or so I've heard.
Jade.
Yes. Well, since I'm more into musical theater, that most of the things I audition for I already know because it's already been established or it's out, it's popular, it's in the now, especially the way, because that's where the money usually is in community theater is, you do 5 or 6 really good plays and then you do a musical to bring in the money, or they're very expensive to produce, so you only do them once a year anyway. So I usually know what part I want or what part I feel like I'm appropriate for. There's been a couple where I was surprised that I was asked to read for one role when I didn't think I was old enough or mature enough or talented enough or anything like that. But as far as advice I would give to somebody coming into this for the first time, go with what you know. Don't try to learn something and be complex and impress somebody. if all you know is, row, row, row your boat, or Mary had a little lamb, or something, a little more common. But if that's what you know and that's your strength, then go with that, because that's what's going to be perceived by the directors, is that you are confident. But if you go up there and try to sing Sondheim for the first time in your life, and you completely fall off the rails because you didn't practice it or you don't know it well enough, but you think you're going to impress them, you're not. And that I know by experience. So, but I was young at once, a long, 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 long time ago.
Not as long as myself.
That is true. But
So did you lay awake nights crying as well?
no, I don't.
That's good. I'm glad.
No, I go on murderous rampages, but I don't cry about it.
Okay, so you get cast in the show, and then you discover that the director has absolutely no clue on how to direct the show that you are now in. Has that ever happened to you? How do you deal with a situation like that?
I think you're an actor and you were hired for a job, so you do your job. If you have serious reservations about it, like you feel like it would damage you personally, you drop out in enough time to be professional and to allow them to replace you or work around it. But because I was cast in a show where the audition was wonderful, and it was an original work. I'm not going to say what it was, and I was really excited about being cast. And I walked in there, and the first rehearsal was a train wreck. They gave us music, was a sheet, no notes. The guy just sang us the song. I'm like, that
sounds
not
familiar.
Music. And then the script was a train wreck, and so I politely said that this is not going to work for me. So I think you have to just do what's comfortable for you. But if you stay in the show, you can't. If you choose to stay, you can't let your displeasure be known, because then you become either difficult to work with, or you don't even know. You might actually learn something from this director, because it's your perception of what this director is doing, and you don't know what his or her process is, and they might actually bring something out of you don't know, but you're not going to know that at the first read through.
Right.
Or the second or third.
That's the
So if you-
professionalism
so
side of
if you
what you
decide
do.
to
You attack
stay,
it as a professional. Right?
You decide to stay, you work with it, and you work with your fellow actors, but you don't undermine the director, because that's not what we're here for. If you wish to speak to the director and you feel comfortable doing that, you probably could, but I wouldn't recommend it, because it does get you a reputation. And it depends on where you are, but Denver, Longmont, Boulder, Fort Collins, Greeley, we're a small community. We all know each other. So if we're talking and say, hey, I held auditions and he auditioned, what do you think? It's between him and this other actor. It's like, he's great, but he's kind of a pain in the ass. He's going to question everything you do, and he's not going to respect your decisions. So why would you want to hire that actor?
An easy choice then.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do know that I'm well known as being a pain in the arse. However, people still cast me. So sometimes it doesn't really matter. Now, we're not going to talk about the show, the director, or anything else, but Rick and myself were involved in a show where we had a very similar set of circumstances happen. It was a Western show, and it had old-time cowboy music in it that required 5-part harmony. Typically, when you do a musical, you learn all of the music first, and then you slip it into the show as you build the scenes up. That didn't happen. In fact, when we went along for our first rehearsal, there was no music director. Because unfortunately, the director had considered this to be simple cowboy music. And it was the music that made this show. And there were 5 of us in this show, not including my son Beck. And the trouble was, we all loved the script. We could all see that this was a dynamite show. So none of us were going to leave. We knew that. We all knew that. But it was a very, very, very awkward time, because we were dragging the producer across to Mike O'Shea's for a beers. After so many rehearsals, it wasn't even
Whiskeys.
funny. Yes. Because we were all so disheartened. However, the night before opening night, we did our last rehearsal, and every one of us was as flat as a pancake. We put no effort into it at all because we were all so pissed off, and we nailed that show opening night. We just nailed it.
Yeah, in a situation like that, I think that, you know, you really need to grit your teeth and press on, because, you know, if you don't like the director, you're letting down more your fellow actors, the crew, and everybody that's, you know, worked so far to get up to that point. You know, if you can't bring yourself to not undermine what's going on, then I think you should drop out, but only as a last resort.
Yes.
It was a hard decision when I pulled out of that show. I really had to sit down and talk to my husband, and I talked to a lot of my friends, you know, and I was worried about my reputation, but it was only the third rehearsal, so, you know, I still felt like I did it in a equitable time that they could replace me and work around it.
Did you get a fake cast?
A what?
A fake cast for your leg?
No.
Crutch?
No, I was
Fake
actually up
cast
front,
works.
and I just said I'm
It
not
works.
comfortable in this show, and I don't feel like we're a good match.
If you wrap half your head with gauze, that works too.
I
You don't have to use blood. People mostly will believe the gauze.
Yeah, I also think it's very important to remember that there's one captain of the ship, that's the director. And if you want to speak to the director, you know, get them in private. Don't.
Rick, what if you're at a
Don't-
show and a bunch of people are all chipping around in the back and everything like that and are all pissed off and stuff? What do? Do you have to like represent everyone, do you think? Or what?
Well, that's where your producer should come in.
Well, they don't always know. Maybe they don't know, you know?
It's up to you to let the producer know, because remember, the producer is there for the theatre company. The producer is not there for the director. And the theatre company wants every show to be as successful as it possibly can be. So this really is an issue that the producer needs to deal with.
Yeah, I don't think that I would speak for the other chippers, so to speak, you know, because perhaps they didn't express to me exactly what they were feeling, or perhaps I misunderstood what they said, and if I turn around and go to the director or producer and, you know, these people are all saying this, you know, it might not be the right message.
You should probably hear
However-
it directly from those people themselves.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with a group going to speak with the producer or the director.
Well, which is exactly what we did on this show. All of the cast members went across and we talked to Karen. Oop. Cut. And we
cut
talked to the producer of the show and explained our frustrations.
Over whiskey.
Over whiskey. Large amounts of whiskey.
That's helpful.
You know, a typical example was the fact that the director wanted us to do this one scene and change it every night. And it meant my character was trying to find a flask. Okay? So she wanted it hidden on 4 different actors on stage, and I was meant to try and find it on my own. We all know as actors, that's a disaster in the making. Because if I haven't got that flask exactly when I need it, I can't
Say the next
do my
line.
line. I cannot do my next line because my character was an alcoholic. So I could not do that next line. And recovery is good. And,
One show at a time.
so I've been told.
So you kept the flask.
So, no. What we did
Never
was
found it. He's still
we
looking.
all worked out exactly how we wanted to do the scene. We all worked out exactly where the flask was going to be. So right at the end, I knew exactly where to go. In fact, I think you were you or Will the last one? I can't remember.
I think it was Will.
I think it was Will.
We weren't
Will.
going to say names.
No, well,
We'll let it
I'm
go.
sorry, but
All you amateur
Oh.
sleuths
I
out there.
know.
They're going to roll this tape 1,000 times just to see,
Just
read
to-
your
just
lips
to-
and see
yes,
what he says and
see
put
what
it
he
together.
says. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Will, yeah, amazing actor. I'm going to start crying because of his loss. He's an amazing man. It was just, and so we worked it out ourselves. And on this Thursday thing that we did it the director's way. And on opening night, we did it the correct way.
Mutiny.
And it worked for every show. We got laughs. Every show. And I got to admit, you know, body searching Beth Anderson's not a bad thing.
Well, I mean, that touches on something that, you know, in a live theater performance, you don't want things happening. Everything that happens needs to happen because it was planned and directed and worked out. Happy accidents happen, but unhappy accidents happen more often.
Yes. You've got to be so careful that everything, even if you're pretending to ad-lib, it's really important that the whole cast understands that are on stage. The whole cast understands that you're pretending to ad-lib. Because the worst thing you can do is skew a cast off into the wrong direction. You've got to be so careful.
Right.
The risk of live theater, it's great.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But you should never do it on purpose.
No, please don't.
And I have worked with a couple of people who thought that was funny.
Not funny.
It's not funny. So I gave up acting because I got sick and tired of trying to learn scripts.
Really?
Because, you know, when you get old and wizened, you know, the brain does not suck up the words like they used to. What are you laughing at? You know, old and wizened. And I've always had trouble learning scripts, and I could be terrible during rehearsals, but again, opening night, I was always spot on. It really upset me that both Alex, Vanessa, and Beck could pick up a script, read it once or twice, and they never had to pick it up again.
Those being your children.
Those being my kids.
Yes.
It was always amazing. How do you guys actually learn a script? Because some roles are easy and some roles are horrendously complicated.
You take this one.
Repetition.
Thank you.
It's simple repetition. I will run those lines as many times as I can. I'm lucky to have a partner who's happy to read lines with me, and we go over the lines a lot.
Do you learn the other people's lines?
You have to at least learn the couple that come before
The endings
yours.
the endings are yes.
Sure. Yeah, you've got to learn your cues.
Really important.
Of course.
Who's
Yeah.
this partner that works with you?
She is unnamed. She is not here today.
Why, are you looking to move in?
Hey! I need help learning some lines. I thought, whoa, you know, maybe she's running a service or something.
You need some help. She
Well,
might charge you.
You know, hey, that's okay.
Okay.
Who knows?
Okay. Anybody else want to grab this one?
I have used a lot of different techniques, or some different techniques. What I found works the best for me is if I'm trying to learn a monologue or a song, I'll start writing it, and I'll write it again and again and again and again until I can write it from memory. And when I can write it from memory, I'm still not where I need to be, because I'm sitting here and I can stop and think, what was that? Oh yeah, and that's not what's happening on the stage. But that, for me, has been the best. I have taken a recorder to rehearsals and kept it in my pocket and listen to that, and that helps me with cue lines, and kind of helps me to listen to the fellow actors and not just listen for cue lines. So I think everybody memorizes things in a different way.
Okay. They find a technique that's really happy, that works for them.
Yeah. And I've worked with other people. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
A partner who's willing to run lines with me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be somebody in the show, just somebody who will read your scene partner's lines for you.
Well, some things come to me easily, and some don't. Music comes to me very easily. Monologues come to me easily. It's back and forth dialogue, because you never know if you're going to get the right cue line. So you can't just be dependent on your fellow actor of coming up with their cue line. You have to understand where the scene is going, because if they drop the line, you're going, but you're supposed to say, what do we do now, Mom? If you don't say that, I don't know what so you have to understand where the scene is going, so that you have the ability to move it along if you have to. Or if you drop the line, your fellow actors have to be able to move it along too. So I think memorizing and knowing the cue line before and the cue line after is important, absolutely. But you have to also have a fluidity in your thinking, so that you have to convince yourself that this isn't a theater, it's not acting, it's real. And if this is happening and I don't hear, but what do we do now, Mom? what would I do? How would I handle it? You know, why would I say, well, what we should do then is move this scene along, or, you know, we need to get a car, whatever it is we need to do. I'm rambling, but I've never depended on
Rambling?
rambling. I've never depended on my fellow actors knowing exactly what this. I mean, because sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. And
Some
same with
actors.
me. Same with me. I can do. It depends on the show. It depends on the role, and it depends on a lot of things. Where you're human, so some things come to us simple like that, and some just don't. And there's no reason or rhyme. It's like I can memorize Shakespeare, but I can't memorize Tennessee Williams for whatever reason. It just, there's no logic to it, but it is what it is. And once you know who you are and what your capabilities are, I think that helps. And yeah, so I don't know where I was going with that, but I do keep scripts all over the stage, backstage. It's ridiculous.
Multiple
right before I go on.
scripts
Yeah,
of the same
multiple. I don't even, I got my stuff highlighted. It's like laying down. I just glance, just so I can sort of
Oh, I
have an
still do
idea
that
of where
too.
it's going. And then I think the, you know, most professional actors have to do that at some point. You know, you just have to. And we're all aging. It's not as easy as it used to be. I'm not going to lie.
We're old and wizened.
In the future, I hope to have a small chip implanted in the back of my ears. So
It's got
that-
all the lines right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I also would be able to find a partner, quote unquote, that would be willing to, you know, read those lines into my ear every night, that would be nice.
That would work nicely.
Someone from the land of Oz that perhaps I could carry around in a valise or a case. Or
I
something
like that idea.
The man behind the curtain?
A
That's
small
the stage
one, though,
manager.
a tiny one. A tiny one.
The
yeah.
stage
In
manager
this
behind
day,
the curtain.
in this day of microelectronics, I bet it would be possible to pull off that.
Well, robot actors are not far behind. We're all going to
No.
be out of work.
That's
so-
true. That's true.
Right. It's time to express emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a role?
Americans don't know the difference anyway, so what's the point? I mean, for God's sake.
Whole new can of worms opens up.
Yeah. Well, here we go.
And that's the next segment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The-
Have you
the
ever
part of the
had a
show.
role where you have been 100% satisfied of the job you are doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted more than yeah.
My most recent role, actually. This is kind of bragging, but I played Marmee in Little Women down at Jester's Theater, and it was a surprise that I got cast in it. It was weird because, you know, with my dark skin, I was playing a mom to 4 very pale, very light-skinned, very tall women, and you know, I would talk to a lot of my friends and a lot of other people in the cast, and the Jester's Theater has a very big family, so we talk amongst ourselves. And they said for about the first 5 minutes, it was weird that you were the Marmee, and you know, but after like the first scene, we were convinced you were their mom, and we didn't question it. And I feel very proud of that. It's kind of a bragging right for me because I don't conventionally look like anyone's mother. So when I get cast in things like that, or a long time ago I did The Secret Garden and I got cast as Lily. You know, and the entire premise is that the other girl looks like Lily, but no, it didn't. So I like, I feel very proud when I can take the audience outside of my physical appearance and bring them into the emotion of the show. So I am very proud of that.
Right. I had a situation, one I enjoyed the role immensely. It was Leslie Briggs Stratton, who was this stuck-up English BBC announcer, which was it was just a wonderful role. And a good friend of ours, Amy Jo Searle, we used to know her from Cheers, when we used to go singing, doing karaoke, and we used to go down there. And she had never, ever, ever been to a live performance in her life. And she was about 32, 33, maybe even a little older. So we talked her and Bill to go along to see Chaps, and they were sitting about 3 rows from the front. And at the end of the show, I go out the front to have a cigarette, and Amy Jo joined me, and she says, "Do you know what, Nigel?" she says. For the first 3 or 4 minutes of the show, I'm sitting there thinking, that's my friend Nigel on stage. That's my friend Nigel on stage. And then I stopped thinking that. I was thinking, there's Leslie Briggs Stratton on stage. And that's probably one of the biggest compliments as an actor I have ever received.
It is.
Because it means I had done exactly what I was meant to do as an actor. How about you, Rick? I know you enjoyed Miles a lot in Chaps.
Yeah, you know, I don't think there's one that I was 100% convinced that I did my best work. I tend to be my own worst critic.
Yeah, I think we all are.
Directorial wise, I've directed some shows that I felt like I did what I could, did my best work. Mm-hmm. But as far as acting roles, there's always something that I think I could have changed or did better or did differently.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true. Bob?
Yeah, I agree with Rick. Is that you just want to do better. You just want to.
You just
want to
keep pushing yourself.
Yeah. Mostly, yeah.
I don't know. I guess my most satisfaction has come when I love the script, and if I really love the script and I do all my studying, then I'm giving the best I can, and yeah, you have to be satisfied with that. I think because like my last play that I was in was Sylvia. I loved the script, but my character was kind of the straight man. I couldn't become funnier or more clever or anything. I had to play that role straight. And I did, and I'm 100% satisfied with that show.
So, lady and gentlemen, and I do use the word very loosely,
Thank you.
I want to thank you all very much for coming along and recording this actor's take. This has been a joy. I knew it was going to be herding cats. I wasn't wrong. I wouldn't want it any other way. This was excellent. I want to thank you all for coming along. Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
Thank you, Nigel.
Thank you. I hope you all
Thank
enjoyed
you.
yourselves.
Yes.
Sure did.
Yes.
I need
Yes.
a cigarette.
Coming to you from the Captain's Lounge studio here in Longmont, it's Nigel Aves and his cast of crew signing off. Thank you.